And so for the first time in their lives, a lot of folks who live downtown actually got to see police brutality and police abuse in their lives. And what's important now is hopefully if we can link it up to what happens in the hoods on a daily basis and say, look, police brutality is not something new, police brutality is not something that just popped out of nowhere, but it's a continuous process. They've been building it up in the hoods, and they finally used what they did in the hoods in the streets of white middle-class Toronto.
The amount of police that were in the streets, the weaponry that they had, and the lengths to which they would go to, you know, suspend basic constitutional rights. I mean, they even did a systematic study, I think, of people coming out of the jail. You know, independent journalists were interviewing them one by one, and they found that almost unanimously what was the, you know, conditions that they experienced was, you know, denial of the basic right to call a lawyer, denial of basic medical care, you know. So these basic things that were denied, and as you said it, in the middle of downtown Toronto, to people that were coming from, you know, all over the world. And when the eyes of the world were watching Toronto, when the media was watching Toronto, when all of these things, when these, you know, violations were allowed to be well known, and yet the media, there was no great outcry from the media about these abuses and about this this kind of repression. So it really shows you, and not to say that this is something, again, that's new and that's just popped up. We know, you know, from anyone that's living within racialized, marginalized neighborhoods and from marginalized and racialized communities in the city, that this is really the way the police behave on a regular basis, but that they would do it on this large of a scale, and to the people in question, to the people that were at the protest, you know, shows really the lengths the state is willing to go.
So this, once again, is a big wake-up call for the complete country and for the world.
That's for sure. I mean, a lot of people have been saying that what happened over the weekend was a police state, but what's important to note is that, you know, David Miller was the mayor of Toronto, Dalton McGuinty was the premier of Ontario, Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister of Canada, who were political leaders. They all approved what the cops did. They all endorsed it. They all defended it. None of them want to call for a public inquiry. They're saying there's no need for an inquiry. They're saying there's no need to investigate the cops. So it's not like the police has become a law unto itself. Really, they're just doing exactly what their political masters are telling them to do.
When we're out in the streets protesting, it's good to show our physical presence, but we have to understand who we're protesting against. You know, it's good to protest against the police, but the truth of the matter is they're slaves just like us. The only difference is they're house slaves and we're field slaves. You know what I mean?
In fact, the Black Bloc was actually aided by the police, that, you know, likely police provocateurs, agents, informants were in the Black Bloc. And that the Black Bloc was actually quite useful, you know, to justify the police's huge budget and its massive state repression on the day of. That, you know, the corporate press, when it tried to demonize and alienate, you know, our rallies and our demands, used the images of the cars burning, you know, the windows shattered at the Starbucks and whatnot. That, you know, this kind of tactic of, you know, a few young heroes taking matters into their own hands played right into the hands of both the police and the corporate press and the corporate, you know, politicians of the rich like Stephen Harper, Dalton McGuinty, and David Miller. So in this debate, you know, we have to be quite frank. At the end of the day, you know, a lot of these people who are in the Black Bloc, and I'll be blunt, some of them are youth, you know, with a lot of passion. They have a lot of good reason for you know, acting the way they, you know, they have a lot of passion. I mean, they're genuinely about the issues, but at the same time, we have to take a clear stand in our movement that, you know, you can't just bring a few people, you know, when there's a huge family march going on, elders, people without status, kids, and just, you know, decide to do whatever you want. That's not the way we move. We have, you know, in our movement, we sit down and democratically decide how we're going to move. We debate, and once everybody decides, okay, we're going to do a family rally, then so be it. And let me just make one thing clear. On the Esplanade Community Group, we've been running a cop watch program for the last 6 months. We're not afraid of being militant. We're not afraid of moving on the issue of police brutality, on our, you know, our issues in our community. You know what I mean? We're not afraid of these things, but at the same time, when we go on a cop patrol in our neighborhood, as an example, when 5 or 8 of us are out there, you know, one of us can't just decide to throw a rock at the cop. In the end, we decide, okay, we're going to move peacefully, observe the cops, back up any of the youth. And this kind of idea that you can just come out to a huge rally, or, you know, that's decided upon, we're going to move in this way and do your own thing, is unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable in our movement. And so we do condemn that.
Tell me, what's the political fallout? I understand there's going to be an investigation. I understand there are going to be a number of lawsuits. Will this be a wounding blow to the Tories, or on the other hand, will they benefit and profit from this situation?
I personally think they're going to benefit and profit from this situation. It caused a real split. Now, I don't know it caused a real split. Now, I tend to think that this might sway. First of all, there's a lot of anti-police sentiment. A lot of anti-police sentiment. Woo. But at the same time, I am not arrogant enough to say that I know what everybody's thinking in terms of the 905 situation. I know the circles that I move in, most of them do not like what happened, but I also know that in the circles that I don't move in, I listen to a lot of talk radio. I would say it's a split, but it might, and I hope I'm wrong on this, it might shift the focus where Harper might be able to get a majority government as a result of this, and I really hope that I am wrong. But that could be one of the fallouts, because at the same time there are people that are saying that we shouldn't have held it here, but then they're trying to put all the blame on the black bloc. That these crazies, and I'm quoting, what the people are saying, not saying that that's my position, but these anarchists tore our city up, so on and so forth. It was absolutely crazy. So that's how I see that.
Well, we shall see.
And I hope that I am really, like I said, I hope that I'm wrong, but. I mean, they've done a job on the black bloc, and I wanted to say publicly that I would not. They'd burn a police car, and I can't understand how the police would stand there and let them burn 2 or 3 police cars. That was a strange thing. They had this fence, and I went down to the fence by myself to see what was taking place. The anarchists had gone down there, and I went down there. After they left, I'm not necessarily after they left. I went after they had supposedly gone down there. When I got to the fence, there was no one at the fence except the security people, and where the fence was and where the meeting was held was like it had to be 2 or 3 miles away. It was held. The meeting was at Toronto Convention Center, which is right on Front Street, across the street from the CBC. And right down the street from the Royal York Hotel. And the Royal York Hotel has a royal history of not letting people like Paul Robeson, Sammy Davis Jr. sleep there. And, I remember seeing people like Lena Horne and Shaka Khan there, but their history is not that glorious. So they had the big dinner with, Barack Hussein Obama and Stephen Harper and Angela Merkel and all of those. They had their feast there. And across the street, they had the Metro Convention Center, and that was so far away from this gate, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was ridiculous because there was no way you could get to them. And like I say, I had never seen so many armed police in my life. Submachine gun carrying police, baton wielding police.
What would you say if a cynic were to suggest that a reason so many people in Toronto were upset was because they don't like the fact that the G8, which was basically the North Atlantic bloc, with Japan as a token Asian member, is now being supplanted by a more diverse grouping that includes China, Indonesia, India, Brazil, South Africa, and that they're disconcerted and uncomfortable with this new international arrangement. Would that be a cynical response?
No, no, not at all. No. Oh, no. I think that there's a sentiment of people that don't want to see that.